Chapter 2. What I was running from. I used to tell myself it was just stress. That's what people say when they don't want to admit it's deeper. Stress is respectable. Stress is normal. Stress doesn't make you a bad person. So I called it stress. But if I'm being honest, it wasn't just stress. It was the part of my life that felt like it belonged to everyone else. It was the constant being needed, the constant being on, the constant background noise of responsibility, lunches, backpacks, laundry, bills, appointments. Mom, where's my babe? Can you? I love my kids. I do. But there were days I felt like my body wasn't mine anymore. Someone always needed something from it. My hands, my voice, my attention, my patience. By the end of the day, I'd be touched out, talked out, drained down to nothing, and still expected to be warm. And my husband, he wasn't the villain. He was good to me. He noticed when I was quiet. He would ask if I was okay. He'd bring me coffee without asking. He'd rub my shoulder when he walked behind me. And sometimes that made it worse, because I couldn't even tell myself I was justified. I didn't have a dramatic reason. I had a normal life, a good life, which meant I had no excuse for how empty I was starting to feel. It didn't look like a crisis. It looked like ordinary. It looked like me standing at the kitchen sink, staring at the same plate in my hands for too long. Water running, thoughts nowhere. It looked like me getting in bed and feeling tired but not sleepy, scrolling in the dark because my brain wouldn't shut up. It looked like me sitting in the bathroom a few minutes longer than necessary, just to be alone. And the truth is, I was lonely. Not nobody loves me lonely. Worse than that. I was lonely in the way that happens when you're surrounded and still feel unseen. Lonely in the way that happens when you're always giving and you start to wonder if anyone actually wants you, not what you do. And then, this part matters, there was my past. There are pieces of your life that don't go away just because you stop talking about them. They sit somewhere inside you like a box you refuse to open. You can build a whole life around that box. You can stack routines over it. You can cover it with laughter and normalcy, and I'm fine. But at night, when things get quiet, your brain starts walking back toward it. I didn't think I was running from grief anymore. I told myself I'd handled it. I told myself I'd moved on. But grief has a way of showing up like irritation instead of tears, like restlessness, like numbness, like a hunger you can't name. And once that hunger exists, it looks for a target. For me, the target was attention. Not love, not romance, attention. The kind that doesn't come with responsibilities. The kind that doesn't need you to be patient or organized or kind. The kind that just says, I see you. It started small, like everything does. I'd be scrolling late at night and see something that made my stomach flip, not because it was dirty or graphic, but because it was suggestive in a way that felt personal, like it was speaking directly to the part of me I kept hidden. And I'd feel it, that subtle heat, that quiet pull, that little shift in my breathing. And I would tell myself the same thing every time. Just a minute, just to take the edge off, just to feel something. It didn't feel like betrayal yet. It felt like a secret sip of water after a long day. But your brain learns fast. It learned that my phone could change my mood in seconds. It learned that the right kind of attention could lift the heaviness off my chest. It learned that anticipation, waiting, checking, seeing a new notification could make me feel awake again. And once your brain learns that, it starts guiding you there automatically. I didn't wake up and decide to become a different person. I became a different person in tiny steps. I started taking my phone everywhere. I started keeping it face down. I started turning the brightness so low it felt like I was hiding even from myself. I started doing the thing people do when they know they're doing something wrong. I started managing the evidence. I'd clear my history. I'd delete nothing because nothing still made me nervous. I'd angle my screen away even if nobody was looking. Not because my husband was controlling or suspicious, because I knew on some level that if he saw what I was looking at, how long I was looking, how I reacted, he'd see that I was somewhere else. There were nights I'd be sitting right beside him on the couch while the TV played, and he'd think we were relaxing together, while my mind was quietly elsewhere, waiting for that little spark. And the part that scares me to admit now is this: I liked the waiting. The anticipation became its own kind of pleasure. Not graphic, nothing like that, but the kind of inner thrill that makes you sit a little stiller, the kind that makes you check your phone again even though you just checked it, the kind that makes your stomach tighten when you see a name pop up. And that's when it stopped being content and started being interaction. A like, a reply, a message that could be explained if you squinted, but didn't feel innocent when you were alone reading it. I told myself it was harmless because it wasn't physical, because it wasn't real, because it was just words. But words can be intimacy. Words can be a doorway. There's a certain kind of message that doesn't describe anything explicit, but still makes your skin wake up. The kind that says, "You're trouble. I bet you're not as innocent as you look. I can tell you like attention. You're thinking about it right now, aren't you?" Nothing you could show your therapist and have them gasp. Nothing you could screenshot and call a crime. But it did something to me. It made me feel chosen. And I started to chase that feeling the way a tired person chases caffeine. Quietly, compulsively, telling myself it's just to get through the day. I started finding pockets of time. In the bathroom, in the car, in the laundry room with the door half closed, while the pasta boiled, while the kids watched a show. I'd tell myself, I'm still here. I'm still being a mother. I'm still functioning. And I was. That's the scary part. I was functioning while splitting my life in two. One life was my marriage, safe, steady, real. The other life was private, charged, secret, and completely mine. And once that second life existed, it started to influence the first one. I'd be at dinner and catch myself smiling at my phone for half a second too long, then forcing my face to neutral when someone looked up. I'd be in bed with my husband and feel guilty because part of me wanted that secret spark more than I wanted the safety next to me. Not because I didn't love him, because the secret didn't ask anything of me, except to feel. And the secret made me feel different. It made me feel like I wasn't just mom or wife or responsible. It made me feel like a person with edges. And yes, there were moments it made me feel desirable in a way that wasn't sweet or romantic, but sharp, like being seen by someone who didn't know me meant they couldn't judge the parts of me I was ashamed of. That was the trap, because the less someone knows about you, the easier it is to be whatever they want you to be. And I started leaning into that. I didn't say the worst things out loud, but I hinted. I flirted in a way that gave plausible deniability. I let conversations hover near the edge and told myself it wasn't crossing the line because I never said the line. But I knew what I was doing. And the worst part, sometimes I liked the feeling of almost getting caught. Not caught like scandal, not caught like explicit proof. Just that little spike of adrenaline when my husband walked into the room and I had to angle my phone, lock it, act normal. My heart would beat faster, like I was doing something exciting instead of something corrosive. That's not romance. That's addiction behavior. And I could feel myself getting more impulsive. At first, I'd wait till everyone was asleep. Then I'd check earlier. Then I'd check during the day. Then I'd check because the silence between messages felt like an itch. I started thinking about it when I wasn't even on my phone. I'd be brushing my teeth and finding myself smiling at a memory that should have embarrassed me. I'd be driving and realize I was hoping, quietly, that my phone would light up at a stoplight. And that's when I realized this wasn't just stress anymore. This was me avoiding something. Because when my phone wasn't there, when the house was quiet and I had no excuse, my brain would drift back to the things I didn't want to feel. The grief, the emptiness, the dullness, the fear that this was my life forever, responsibilities on repeat until I died. And I'm not proud of this, but it's true. Part of me wanted to feel dangerous again. Not reckless, not destructive, just not invisible. And the more I fed that part of me, the louder it got. That's the thing with cravings. They don't just want satisfaction, they want escalation. Soon, what used to feel like a thrill started feeling normal. A message that would have made me blush became something I expected. A compliment that used to make me laugh became something I needed. The attention didn't feel like a treat anymore. It felt like a requirement. And once it's a requirement, you start rearranging your life around it. I started making little choices, quiet choices that I couldn't explain without sounding guilty. Choosing certain outfits, not for my husband, but because I liked the idea that someone else might notice. Taking an extra minute in the mirror. Posting something online that wasn't explicit, but wasn't innocent either. Something that said, I know what I'm doing, without saying it. Tiny steps, but they weren't random. They were leading somewhere, and I felt it. I felt the tension building, like a storm you can smell before it hits. Because the door I'd been using for escape wasn't just a door anymore. It was becoming a hallway. And hallways don't go nowhere. They take you somewhere, whether you admit it or not. By the end of this phase, I wasn't just reacting to attention. I was waiting for it, looking for it, setting traps for it like I could pretend I was passive while secretly hoping it would happen. That's the truth that makes me sick. I wasn't dragged, I wasn't forced, I wasn't helpless. I was tired and hungry and unresolved and human, and I started making choices that fed the worst part of me. And I want to say I didn't know where it was headed, but I did. I just didn't want to stop, because stopping meant going back to stillness, and stillness meant feeling everything I'd been avoiding. So I kept moving. And then, finally, something shifted from this is private to this is real. Not in the way people assume, not in explicit detail, in the way that a stranger's attention starts feeling like permission, in the way your brain starts whispering, what if you took this out of the screen? What if you let someone see you for real? What if fantasy isn't enough anymore? That thought didn't appear like a plan. It appeared like curiosity. And curiosity is the most dangerous excuse there is, because it sounds innocent while it walks you toward a cliff. End of chapter 2. In chapter 3, I'll tell you about the moment waiting turned into wanting, and the first time I realized I wasn't just running from pain, I was running toward a choice.